Hi, Anne. So
Hi
lovely to
there.
speak with you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I hope you are as well.
I am, yes, thank you. So I thought you gave such a lovely lived-in performance in Mass, and I
Thank
loved your
you.
work as well with opposite Reed in The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh,
Very
that was
different
wonderful.
characters, of course.
That was, yeah, oh, was very good to be back with him. Very
Mhm.
good, very comfortable.
So what did you like best about collaborating with him?
Well, Reed is, as you know, a very, very fine actor. And he's a wonderful person. And come to find out, he's hilariously funny. But I mean, where, in the shooting of Mass as well, in between takes, there was a lot of laughter. I would imagine we would call that release of some kind. Never disrespectful, but he's just a dear friend now, dear friend. And when you spend that amount of time in that kind of material, there's a closeness there that's genuine. And I'm very grateful for the friendship.
So I'm curious, what sort of discussions did you have with him about the marriage prior, 6 years prior, about what happened that day, and then the dissolution of the marriage?
It didn't surprise me at all that the marriage did not last. I think, to Fran's credit, for the whole story, my goodness, so beautifully written, is there wasn't a need to say much. You knew the marriage didn't last. And what I found interesting is that Martha and Jason did share their backstory, really worked together very hard on it. Really, by that I mean spent a lot of time talking about imagining what's been going on in the marriage and what happened since and all, which was very beneficial. Reed and I never spoke a word about our past. And what I loved about it was that it gave us our freedom, personally, each of us, to imagine what it was. And to me, it was very clear why the marriage did not last. I think we see that they're entirely different people from each other, which under what one would call natural circumstances or normal circumstances, they could exist in a marriage and keep the family, together. And certainly there was love there. I think she spent a lot of time as the interpreter in the family. Father, just having to say, you can say it another way to him. You have to, because the way you're speaking to him, he feels that you're judging him. Or to my son, he's proud of you. He is, but Dad, he doesn't talk about it like that. But doesn't, that just trying to keep some level of harmony and peace in the family. And once this tragedy happens, I think all of that shatters, is gone. And Fran and I had the privilege of meeting a mother whose child was killed at Sandy Hook. Her little girl was 6 years old, and their marriage did not survive. And she was very clear about why, which is because, well, what she said, and it was very beautifully put, you can't choose not to grieve. You have to go through it. And I think what we see with Linda and Richard is that surely he has grieved, no question. And, he feels very deeply, profoundly about it on so many levels, loved his son. But he also needs protect, he had some of those walls are strong and tall for him, He doesn't lead with feeling, doesn't lead with emotion, which doesn't mean he doesn't have them. Surely he does. But they're very different people. And I think when something like that occurs, you can't proceed together.
So tell me more about that meeting with the mother. What was that like?
It was profoundly humbling. Fran and I just cried because, the privilege of our work, of course, is that these are imaginary circumstances for us.
Right.
But this woman not only had lost her daughter, and her marriage ultimately, but she has found her way through to forgiveness. And it was very clear in her presence She chose that path. I'm sure she had to work very hard to get there. She said she relied on her faith, but she's arrived authentically in a place of forgiveness and devotes her. She has another child and also a beautiful sanctuary, animal sanctuary, in honor of her daughter who loved animals. And so all of it for her now, I'm sure the grief, but she just was very clear on the need to move forward for herself. And so it was a beautiful and very privileged experience to meet her.
So tell me more about collaborating with Fran and what sort of discussions did you have about Linda?
Well, he's kind of remarkable in a number of ways. He's a very fine actor, as you know.
Yes.
And so he has real awareness of where we're going to go with this, what it's like to be an actor in that vulnerable state, so to speak. Just a lot of awareness on his part. We had the 2.5 days together as our kind of rehearsal, if you will, went through text, clarified any areas that didn't seem quite right. He was very collaborative. There weren't many of them. It was very small things, but very generous in that regard. He trusted us to know these characters, and that's how he proceeded. He set it up so that once we were in the room, everything was shot in sequence. He did not stay in the room for the shoot. He set us up as 4 people talking. And honestly, when we think back on it, we don't remember where the cameras were. It was that private. And that's to his credit, making sure the way it was set up, first that we had the words we needed and we had the environment we needed. So the whole thing was remarkable, to be honest with you.
Wow. So tell me about collaborating with Jason and Martha. What was that experience like for you?
Well, we had some great conversations and some great arguments too. Forceful, but the wonderful thing is, because we had established a lot of trust in each other and so on, you can say those things, then you can own it later and say, I'm sorry, I was a little rough there, or whatever it may be. Nothing stopped us from staying close and moving forward together. They're wonderful actors, as you know, and very, very fine people. And I will have them in my life for the rest of my life. Their family, really, very grateful for them. It was incredible.
That is a boring interview question, but I'm genuinely interested in this circumstance.
I don't think they're boring.
What drew you to this script? I'm curious, and this project in general.
Well, the material, the beauty of the script, it was so beautifully written, so carefully written and intentional. Do you know what I mean? The story is, being an American citizen and wondering where have we gone with the gun situation, though the focus in this film is not the shooting. It's really about, of course, human connection, the moving toward healing, and ultimately forgiveness. And of course, we could apply that to so many circumstances in our lives, so much that we carry that we wish to put down. So I was very struck by the character of Linda. I was very drawn to her and her life. I very much wanted to know her. So it was always yes from the start. And at the same time, real hope that I could do my part in dropping into that level of grief and staying there through the telling of this story.
So I'm curious, the film is played at Sundance, it's played at many different screenings. What sort of reactions have you received to this?
People have been wonderful, really wonderful. They're moved by the story, which is what you hope. Yeah. They've been very considerate in their comments and in their questions. It's beautiful to be in the room with them afterwards, a Q&A, and it's wonderful to see that the hope and intention that Fran had, that we all have, is happening. It's just wonderful.
It's wonderful. So you've had some exceptional scene partners, obviously
Yeah.
Reed and Jason and Martha, and I love your scene work with Madeline Brewer on The
Oh,
Handmaid's Tale.
Crazy about her. Crazy about her. She, my little girl, as I call her, my little precious. Yeah, she's terrific.
Mhm.
We've had many years now together. We did a film together years ago, the
Oh,
two of
really?
us,
Huh.
which I didn't know her well. I didn't know her at all, actually. And to be able to come back with her here has been fantastic. Very, very, I say proud of her, which sounds ridiculous, but I'm old enough to be able to say that about her, you know. She's educating me too about what goes on in the real world. She keeps me up to date, you know. The handmaids have been teaching me all along. I appreciate, may I say.
So who have you worked with in the past that you'd love to work with again?
Well, there are so many because there's so many really wonderful actors. Justin Theroux from doing The Leftovers is my very dear friend, and I really want to work with him always. Just so many, you know, been very, very fortunate. I must say, very fortunate. And Lizzie Moss, I mean, come on now. And then her abilities as a director are unbelievable. You know, she's born to do it, no question. Working with her was fantastic on every level, every single level.
And it reflects on screen for sure.
I'm so glad.
So I'm curious, what have you been watching lately that you've been really into?
Well, we just watched my daughter's suggestion. It was Normal People, which was wonderful. My daughter explained, she said, I think it's a young person's movie, which is very funny because my husband and I were turned to each other saying, what's the holdup here? They clearly are deeply in love. What are they waiting for? But we enjoyed it immensely. We started watching Ted Lasso, which is terrific. I loved Bosch. Oh my goodness. And Money Heist. And Fauda. Oh gracious. Fauda was beyond. I'm behind, no question. Oh, I'm now watching Mare of Eastman. Isn't that something?
Oh, it's exceptional. Yes.
Oh,
what a treat.
Yeah. And Craig
so
Zobel,
different. Yes. You've worked with before, Compliance.
Him. Very happy for him. Very happy for him.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for the art that you bring into the world,
Laura.
Anne. I really appreciate. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You as well.